Corporation, which I will call to order at 8:18 p.m. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any proposed changes? Administration.
Administration has no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the agenda for the Monday, January 13, 2025 Board of Finance meeting as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Next item is the approval of the minutes. Board members, do you have any additions or changes to the minutes from the Monday, January the 8th, 2024 Board of Finance meeting? Administration.
Administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to adopt minutes for the Monday, January 8th, 2024 Board of Finance meeting as presented?
I so move.
Second?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Next up is the nomination of Board of Finance officers. I'll call for the nominations for officers of the Board of Finance, starting with the office of President. Last year, Ms. Claire Roche served as President of the Board of Finance. Do I have a nomination for President of the Board of Finance?
I nominate Ryan McCullough for the President of Board of Finance.
I will second that nomination, and I move that the nomination cease and a unanimous ballot be cast for Mr. Ryan McCullough as President of the Board of Finance. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay.
Nay.
That motion carries by a vote of 6-1. Next up is nomination of the Secretary of the Board of Finance. I'll now call for nominations for the office of Secretary for Board of Finance. Last year, Mr. Ryan McCullough served as Secretary. Do I have a nomination for the Secretary of Board of Finance for 2025?
I nominate and move that Ms. Dana Sullivan serve as Secretary of the Board of Finance.
I second that nomination, and I move that the nomination cease and a unanimous ballot be cast for Ms. Dana Sullivan as Secretary of the Board of Finance. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay.
Nay.
Motion carries by a vote of 6-1. And we'll now move on to appointing of investing officers. And Mr. President, I will turn it over to you.
Let me get my bearings. All right, at this annual meeting, the Board of Finance is required to appoint its investing officers. The administration recommends that Dr. Thomas Keeley, Executive Director of Business Services, and Ms. Maureen Munger, Accounting Coordinator, Deputy Treasurer, be appointed to serve as the investing officers for this corporation. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Thomas Keeley, Executive Director of Business Services, and Ms. Maureen Munger, Accounting Coordinator, Deputy Treasurer, as the investing officer for the school corporation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Keeley and Ms. Munger, for your willingness to serve as investing officers in our corporation. Moving on to agenda item number 7, review of investments of previous year and presentation of fiscal year. Dr. Keeley, would you like to do a brief presentation on the investment reports to the board at this time?
I will give my presentation.
Did you get new batteries for your pointer?
All right, this is an annual meeting that we always have, and it's really important to just kind of reset where we're at and see where we're headed. And the Distressed Unit Appeals Board, commonly known as the DUAB in the finance world, was established some years ago. They put 7 members from the Department of Education, State Board of Accounts, Department of Local Government, Finance, IASBO, and they come up with rules and regulations to create transparency by schools that hadn't happened in the past prior to maybe 2012. And now it is happening quite a bit. A couple of websites I gave you so that if you ever want to look at our fiscal indicators from years past, you could look those up. But I'll show you our report that came out for this year. If I can.
technology is not,
Yeah.
I mean,
Better.
Gotta go back to the one before. All right, there are 8 interactive reports that come in the DUAB report that is provided to us from the DUAB. And it's the average daily membership, that's basically our student count, the fund balances, our percentage surplus or deficit per fund, percentage of expenditures that we have in each of the funds, types of revenue that come, and then operating referendum revenue as a percent of total, which ours, of course, will be 0. I apologize. Yours isn't working either?
now it's too.
I think it's one, there you go. So this is something you were notified about, the consistency of our membership, but if you look into the details, you're gonna see that 2022, 23, then 2024, we are going slightly down, very stable at 11,000 kids, 11,000 students. But we're fluctuating by about 100 per year. And we talked about that with kindergartners and first graders and the lack of, new families and that age of child moving into PHM. So it's something to keep our eye on. It certainly is not a crisis, but it is something to keep our eye on. In an $80 million fund, what does that mean? And we fluctuate financially about $2 million down. So if they give us a 3 or 5% increase, we're not going to get all that 3%. We're not going to get all that 5%. So may only get 2% because we're going to be a couple of $1 million in the hole to start off, just revenue streams coming in. So the 2 bars that I would show you here, the one that is the highest are capital improvements, and we're doing maintenance projects, taking care of roofs, taking care of playgrounds, like you heard. The field house money's in there. That's the really tall blue one. The 2 that to focus on that shows really good fiscal health is the orange and yellow. They're pretty prominent in 2021, 22, 23. See how they stagger incrementally upward for 3 consecutive years? That is continuing to happen in this year as well. So this money and these numbers, I do need to give you an asterisk. These are from 2023, the end of 2023, because the DLGF has to do this analysis for 270 or 280 school systems, right? So it is a year behind. But as you can see from 2021, 22, 23, through the pandemic, what a wonderful job to keep the fiscal health. The green is absolutely the revenue, and the blue is expenditure. And so that's why you get to this graph and you see how our cash balances have reached, upward of over 25% compared to the expenses we do per year. So a very balanced budget, very, very sound fiscal health, and this year is no different. Revenue types, obviously the big blue portion, that is student. We're dependent on student count. And I can't say it enough. If we were to have some fluctuations with our kid numbers, that is something that would, really take us some time to evaluate. The nice thing is, with 26% cash balances, it wouldn't be a crisis. We'd have 12 to 18 to 24 months to look at our student to teacher ratios. We do have an investment policy that is in board policy there, and it really is looking at anything less than 2 years, establish financial institutions that are rated. We are not going out into the market. They are just money market or bond funds. And that's basically what this statement says. And so we will continue to safeguard our deposits and work with our building level personnel to provide the same practices. I have to give this policy when we get ratings by the Standard & Poor's. The nice thing is this slide here, to piggyback off of your appreciative comment, Mr. Fox, during 2024, the school corporation utilized what we call a sweep account. And that's the ability every day to have money swept out and is available for Everwise Bank to use. It sweeps back in, and we have discretionary dollars that we can keep kind of in that money market realm. And by doing that, July 1 of 2023, we changed to a variable account, which netted us 5.4%. We were 2.6 before that. So our increase in revenue in 23 over 22 was $769,000. In 24 over 23 was another 710 for an increase of $1,479,000 as compared to the years before. We did some creative things with this, talking to administration and these wonderful leaders in the learning division, talking to them. They needed monies to support early literacy training and licensure for young, or not young teachers, but early literacy teachers, right? So what I asked you to do last May was to carve off our interest into different areas. The interest in construction is a majority. It's quite a bit of money over there. It has to remain in construction. The education and operations interest, we have about $60 million bank balance. And we utilize that to get that $2,098,000 was our actual spendable cash. And that was up over the year, spendable cash over 1.8 million. We carved it into rainy day, operations, and then the education fund. And you can see over $250,000 went into early literacy initiative to support that was desperately needed. We had a grant for it, but we were running out. So it's a great move. Our money did not fluctuate that much in operations because our money went up in total revenue. So that was great. And then rainy day got over $300,000 added to it in the calendar year of 2024. And again, at the very bottom, you can see those increases in revenue streams over the last 2 years. And then this is in the bar graph, same thing, but it's just in the bar graph. And as you can see, the blue bar is those construction dollars. But you can really see the operations and education, those dollars going on there is quite a bit of money. Oh, I'm sorry, the blue's operations. Rainy day has incrementally increased in 23 and 24. So I love this graph. It's really nice. So my recommendation again for you during that board meeting, and one of your items that you signed and you approved was 10% of the operation fund earnings going to rainy day, 15% going to early literacy to continue that practice for our teachers, and approximately $300,000 will net in rainy day. And that was on the consent agenda today. I want to continue our very positive relationship with Everwise. They've been a wonderful bank for us, naming rights and all, and their willingness to work with me on the investment side has been noted considerably. So transparency will continue. We'll have this Board of Finance meeting every year. The fiscal health for PHM is absolutely positive. It's wonderful. I did put a statement in here. PHM receives the same foundation tuition support for students the rest of the state. However, we have some of the lowest tuition dollars coming in because our complexity index is lower. Our kids, we don't have as high a free and reduced as South Bend or Elkhart. So our money is sometimes $2,000 per kid lower than some surrounding districts. With watching our ADM over time, I would just caution us as an administration when we talk about these things, on a weekly basis. We talk about our student to teacher ratio. Make sure that we pair the number of teachers appropriately with the number of students. So that, class sizes of 12 to 1 or 15 to 1 or something, really needs to be highlighted and looked at for the future. I just give that as a caution because that's what I do, right? We do not have the lowest tax rate in the county, so I apologize for that because that got set Friday. We are second. We will be number 1 next year. We will make student-centered decisions with these dollars, and I hope that you can see that taking those interest dollars and dividing them into meaningful programs. We didn't just stand up here and put a feather in the cap and say we made 1.4 million. We directed it to the right places. So we'll continue to monitor our financial position, and we will maintain our spendings. Even though they give us permission to spend way more or spend our cash balances, that is not going to be our intent at all. So that's the state of finances at PHM.
Board members, any questions or comments on Dr. Keeley's presentation? Dr. Keeley, I do have one. So when we looked at the rainy day a couple of years ago, and we saw that potentially was an issue and we built up, is there a goal in mind? I know what caught our attention was the rainy day per student enrollment was really low. I forget what the ratio is off the top of my head now, but is there a goal to get it to a certain percentage or amount?
Well, we're a very large corporation. And so I do not think it's prudent to get to 10%. A lot of people like 10%, but for us, that would be $10, $12 million.
Yeah.
I don't think that's prudent. I don't think that's a good use of dollars when we have programmatic security, interventionists. We have people we want to pay. So we don't want to build that level. My goal would be over the next 5 years to get to 5 million. And whether that's investment strategies, other opportunities to get some money over there by asking a request of you, my goal would be a $5 million cash balance. But I don't think you should do that. You know, we have $14.7 million in the education fund. We have $10.5 million in operations. We now have over $2 million in rainy day. And so I think over time, we'll eventually get there, but I would feel more comfortable with 5. But I don't feel too bad about it because we have 26% cash balances in the other 2 funds. So if anything happens, it's not, you know, our ship's not sinking.
Yeah.
We've got some cash balance to work with to make gradual change over time. And that, it takes that because teachers are under contract and you got them all the way through, you know, till August next year. You can't make change like that in an organization like a school system. So that'd be my number 5.
Okay. Dr. Thacker, on enrollment with some of the new topics down at the state level, enrollment changes, open enrollment. I know we turned down applicants. What is that number? Do you know?
Well, actually, we have about 1,700 students we take from outside our district. And what we have is a smaller cohort in St. Joe County of preschool students, so that across the board, that's lower. And so it's a little more difficult to get those at the K2, and that's when we start talking about maybe we start adjusting some class sizes because we have some pretty small. And so as we've really not been interested in going K through 12, because when we get to some of the transitional grades, it seems like maybe we're getting more students that would have. We used to go to the cherry pick.
Yeah.
Right? A cherry pick meant we got to be like a private school and select the kids. So sometimes we have students would have huge deficits in some areas. And so then we're investing a lot of money. So we lose money when we're looking at that before. And so we really believe that we bring the kids in at the lowest grade levels we can, like K1, K1, 2. They really become part of our culture. And they start performing at that high level, regardless of the socioeconomic group they're in. And so we really monitor that closely to make sure that we get the revenue. We want to make sure we have high performance.
We still have a waiting list.
Well, we have a waiting list that would be above grade 2 and grade 3 sometimes. But we've identified some specific grade levels, some grade 4 and grade 5. But typically, when the students get into the first couple of grades, the parents don't want to move them. Because the kids, they almost, no matter where they go to school, they like their teachers. And the teachers probably do a good job and work with them. And so there's not a lot of movement in grades 4 and 5.
Do you know how many families are on the waiting list currently? I know that fluctuates.
Yeah, well, because I can give you really accurate data in March, because we'll have,
That's when
the open window. And that does fluctuate a bit. When we go back to COVID, there was no movement anywhere. And then I think that slowed down some of the people having interest in moving at all because just apprehension and anxiety. But our programs are so excellent with regard to the literacy programs and the things that we're doing with mathematics. And of course, with our teachers and quality instruction, monitoring pupil progress, all the assessments that we're using. And I think that we've had over 250 students or teachers who've been trained in literacy. And we have people who are volunteering their time. So our teachers are really performing at an unbelievably high level. So I think that when I know for a fact when we publish the data on our schools and people are informed, if we just could wave a magic wand and enough facilities to, we'll take everybody, we could bring in thousands of students. We could do that. But we don't have the capacity. And as you look at it, when we're trying to bring in students, we pretty much try to stay at that 800-ish level for every grade level, because we have to make sure that Penn High School is not oversubscribed. And so so we balance all those things really quite well. And sometimes we'll have a school that will have a dip from people moving or whatever the reason would be. And so then we'll try to fill it in later with a different grade level. But we just don't have a lot of takers above grade, say 2.
Mr. Fox?
Isn't the, I would say especially at the K through 2, but maybe as it goes higher, the voucher game is going to be all about transportation and how you're going to be able to bring those kids into the system through some mechanism, some transportation mechanism. And I guess is that something that we're taking a look at?
Yeah, in fact, I believe, I know there's a study that's being done. I talked to Larry Tony, and we're going to be providing data so that we can contribute to a really comprehensive study for the state of Indiana. They'll really be targeting the communities where they have the most charter schools. That would be Saginaw County, Lake County, Marion County, and probably Evansville. And I mean, Muncie has some charters as well, but I think they're going to focus on about 4 counties to see what, and they'll do something with a pilot. And I agree that a student doesn't really have a voucher if he doesn't have a way to get to school. So the transportation is going to be an issue, and the legislation could be changing on that one, mandating certain kinds of things.
Hey, board members, anything else? All right, thank you, Dr. Keeley, for your great report again in fine detail, and that concludes the Board of Finance. Do I have a motion to adjourn the January 13th, 2025 Board of Finance meeting for the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All those in favor nay. Vote carries by 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 8:41 PM.
Thank you.